Forgiving Christians get sweetened and sweeten with grace. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to part 4 of this 5-part series. We're looking at kindness, not bitterness. Another parallel, but a transition from bitterness to kindness, or if you will, bitterness to sweetness. We get the idea of bitterness right here from Ephesians chapter 4, where we are encouraged to let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. There is this package deal, right? Not just of what we receive, but also what we reject. And when we think about bitterness, it's really kind of like darkness, right? To where darkness is the absence of light. Bitterness on a certain level is simply the absence of sweetness. And the difference now that we are believers and we receive the gift of Christ, rather than reject that gift, that sweetness enters into our life and we are sweetened. And what happens if I put any drink and I place a sweetener in it? Once the sweetener has been put into the drink, whenever I pour out of that same cup and that same sweetener, what should it taste like? Whenever I drink and whenever I pour, it should be sweet. So now here is where we can find that secret sauce, that secret sweetness. And it's to simply give out what has been given to us. But the reality is if we never got it, it's impossible to get. So when you look now at Ephesians 4:32, where we are asked to and encouraged, I shouldn't say asked, but the Bible commands, be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted. Look at what it goes on to say, forgiving one another. But how? And for what reason? Even as God has, for Christ's sake, forgiven you. Do you see the reaction? It is first the action of God being kind to us, the action of him forgiving us through the blood of Christ. Now we don't just have the responsibility, but now we have the reaction to say, no, I got to do this for others. And not when I say have to or got to, which is bad in English, but when I need to do this for others, it's because it's been done for me. And if I have to try and dredge up or suck it up and pull up this, well, then you have to ask yourself, have you really received? Have you really been not just affected, but infected with the grace of God that removes and alleviates and purges and cleanses all of your sins? It should be now. A part of who and what you want to be is to give that to others. To be a part of the cleansing, the purging, and the removing of their sins by not ignoring them, acknowledging them, and letting them go. Seeing them, but forgiving them. Now, if this is who we are in heart, it's who we'll be in mouth. Where it says in Colossians 4 verse 6, let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. Seasoned speech. Being sweet does not mean that there's no nutrition. Being sweet does not mean no substance. Everything that God makes is not sweet, true to form. But everything that God makes, even if it is sweet, it has a nutritional value. That's the difference between created foods and processed foods. And when you think of created foods, most notably fruit, right? Those are the sweetest natural foods that we have. As sweet as they are, they don't leave behind the truth of vitamin A. They don't leave behind the truth of vitamin C. The nutritional value is not compromised by the sweetness. It's actually enhanced by the sweetness. And so when we think about being sweet or being kind does not mean we don't tell the truth. Being kind does not mean that we don't say what needs to be said. But being kind means that we say exactly what needs to be said, but it's always seasoned. Sometimes it's sweet with sugar, and sometimes it's savory with salt, and sometimes, it's like salted caramel. You bring them both together. It's sweet and it's salty, but it's still good food. Christians now, we're able to stand in an age of relativism and in an age where people only want to hear affirmation, even for their wrong and their right. We're able to say, look, I cannot condone your wrong. I can love you and show you what's right. And I can do it with a smile. I hate what sin has done to us, and I hate what sin is doing, and I hate the sin in me and in you, but I love you and pray that you can get sweet, get seasoned with grace. This is where we can be, and I'm praying for it. I hope you can feel and taste and see that even now in this study, to where you can say what needs to be said, but it still have a sweetness. It still have the right salty flavor, and it still be healthy as it is delicious. Because as a vegan for over what, 20 something years now, I can definitely, wait a minute, almost 30 years. I'm getting older, but I'm not old. I can tell you, and we can all believe and see, yeah, it can be healthy and it can taste good. It's the same thing with truth. Truth as it is in Jesus.